right, so let's talk about some of these struggles that people go through, right? So, for example, there have been a couple of times where I've gone through health struggles and financial struggles. For example, like there was in 2008, I was teaching at a publicly funded alternative program that provided education to people who had been convicted, adolescents who had been convicted of crimes, right? 2008, our wonderful governor at the time, Jindal, cut the funding to the program. Like he was doing cutbacks and whatnot. And even though the program was successful, he was still cutting it. As we know, he cut all kind of good stuff back then. And in order to try to preserve the program, they had to cut some of the jobs. And so what they did was they laid off those of us that had not been teaching for very long in the program, right? So I lost my job in 2008. And I was not in a position to be losing my job. I had a small daughter. She was 2 at the time. And I was barely making ends meet as it was. So I ended up having to use all of the savings money that I had left up, and came out of it, didn't have anything to show. I had nothing left once my savings was used up. And I had to get through that. And I had to make a decision for myself that for myself and for my daughter, I was going to set that example of overcoming obstacles and struggles. I was working, you understand, I was working a minimum wage job after that. I went 3 months with no job. Then I worked 3 months at a full-time job, minimum wage, $7.25 as an ER tech. An ER tech in the hospital, it was, as far as that was concerned, it was decent. It wasn't horrible conditions and whatnot, but you go from being, you get 50% of your income that you're used to, and you're stuck having to do, this difficult work. Sometimes I was working overnight. I had to get a roommate. We had to take turns taking care of each other's children because we each had a child at the time. And man, that, it was really difficult. I can't even go into the details of how difficult it was, because in addition to that fact, the person that was my roommate at the time, she was not an easy person to live with. This girl was ridiculously difficult to live with. And that's something I'm not even going to go into, because that, it just not neither here nor there. The point is, as of 2008, I was in a very challenging situation, and I could have thrown my hands up and been like, forget it. I'm working for this minimum wage crap. I have a bachelor's degree, can't do nothing else with it. And I didn't give up. And that's the point. I didn't give up, because within 6 months of losing that job, there was a huge turnaround in my life. And I'm going to talk about that in the next clip that I'm going to add to this video.